I'm just taking a break from chopping some wood. I know it's a good pile. Talk about The Bachelor and what happened last night. I am devastated that Abigail is gone. Gone. She's gone. And Chris Harrison may leave the show. There's so much happening right now. And I'm going to get to my theory about Chris Harrison at the end. But I guess you're wondering how I know all of this. It's because my girlfriend makes me watch The Bachelor. But let's stop and let's talk about Heather first. First off, Heather walks in on Piper's time. Piper's feeling the rage out of nowhere. You can tell she's pissed off. First off, she's crying, for one. But then what really got me is when Heather's like, oh, he could be my husband. How the hell is he going to be your husband? You just met him. Not only that, I call BS. Because you know what? If her friend Hannah had really known Matt James, wouldn't she have set him up with him before? And now, oh, you could be my... No. What I think is awful too is Heather's exit. First off, you know what she does? She shows up in a minivan driving herself, and she leaves in a minivan driving herself. Shows up in a minivan. And it was kind of pathetic. She rolls out in a white minivan, mom-mobile. It didn't feel good. I think it was smart that Matt James let her go though, because he's right. He's 6 weeks into this. 6 whole weeks. How is he going to get to know somebody in that amount of time? I mean, Heather looked great. She seemed kind of nice. I don't really know her, so I mean, if she wants to hang out and go get a cup of coffee, maybe do an interview here, she can take the place in my wood. But I don't know her. What I also found was awful was how mean Jacina, Kit, and Serena C. God, she's gone. Were to Heather. I mean, they're so catty. It's just uncalled for. Even Serena C said, oh, go do an interview. I don't want to hear you cry. It's just really mean and unnecessary. And then Rachel said she was a virus. Guarantee you, if they make them about somebody on the show, they will make them about them in real life. Kit also said, bitch, what are you doing? Like, these are just not kind comments. Why not embrace them? You know who embraced them? You know who didn't say anything? At least they didn't show it? Abigail, who's now gone. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. Let's move on to the rose ceremony. Kit's gold dress, or gold shirt. I think I talked about it last week. It's still amazing. I was so disappointed that Matt Pitt just said again. I don't think he knows how much of a troublemaker she really is. Moving on to the one-on-one, right? You have Abby still not getting a one-on. Bring it. We're just going to talk about it now because I have to let it out. Of course he took it for granted. I mean, who didn't see that coming? And here's my theory about Matt. He's the honest virtue as a crutch person. So this is what I mean by that. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I need to be honest. I cheated on. I gotta be honest. But meanwhile, you're doing all these bad things. Just because you're honest doesn't absolve you of your actions of taking people for granted or whatever else you did. But he's done it more than once. Probably still a nice guy, but that's what he does. That's my psychological interpretation of Mr. Matt James. I also couldn't handle Abby being so sad. It really was sad. She just looked so sad. On the group date, Abby looked so sad. No, it didn't look sad. Her earrings. They looked fabulous. Matt James took it for granted just like a man. That's what we do. We take things for granted. And unfortunately, Abby, being the classy, sophisticated lady that she is, handled it with such class. She did great. I was sad that she was sad. What else I have to talk about is why Matt James touches every one of those girls' legs, especially when he's dumping them. Abby's like, yeah, I'm really sad. This is happening. And you see Matt James's like giant hand just caressing her thigh. Like, really, man? Now's not the time to be touching. Maybe hold her hand. Maybe comfort her in a way because, sometimes you can't help those things happening. It's just what your heart says. It's all about the journey. But you don't need to touch your leg consistently. Abby also told Matt James that she sees a future with him. What about me? I don't even think Abby knows I exist. She probably doesn't. My favorite part and the saddest part about Matt James's exiting of the best woman to have ever graced The Bachelor was not only touching her leg, but when he said, I wish we had more time. You had plenty of time, my friend. You had 6 weeks and you could have called out a one-on-one easily, but you didn't. And another thing that I noticed is what's up with Matt James taking his tongue out all the time? All the time. Dude, keep your tongue in your mouth. Like, we don't need to see it. It's all right. Bree got reassigned from her job. She lost her job so she could be on The Bachelor. I mean, good for her. If she wants to do that, I think that's great. Does anyone miss Katie? Because I do. And now I miss Abigail too. And again, Matt James doesn't care about my feelings. Because if he did, Katie and Abigail and Matt James would be in a polyamorous relationship living a very happy life. Matt James hitting that Peloton. Of course he's hitting that Peloton. He's Matt James, always working out. Was Kit wearing a fur coat? I could see her sort of being the fur coat type, but I feel like she's got more of a heart than to do that, so I feel like it's faux. But if you know if she's wearing a fur coat or not, hit that up in the comments below. The part about Kit that was so interesting was how she ended up explaining her timeline. School, I need somebody to support me, and this and this and this. She's 21. Dude, she's so young, and that was great that she knew that timeline. But once you get a little bit older, you realize that timeline goes out the window because life happens. And it was really interesting later when she came back, because it kind of felt like, because she didn't get the rose, she got all catty and introverted and was like, well, screw him, I'm leaving the show. I deserve that rose. Is that really the behavior you want in a wife? Doesn't get what she wants and then leaves the show? You want somebody showing up like that? I don't know. Kit, costume change. Love the casual profession. She just looks so good all the time. I should ask her for some fashion advice, because a vest, cargo pants with digicamo on them. Let's talk about the Yesenia one-on-one date with Matt. First off, when he drove her to the parking lot, I would have just left her there. But he showed up, and they made it look like he drifted in, but he didn't. It was a pro driver. They cut this. And then they drove around for a while. Also, I really love how she said, this would be like if I was to marry Matt. No, it's not. You're on a TV show in the lap of luxury, being filmed 24/7. This is not what life with Matt is going to be like. You're not going to be drag racing, drift racing cars, or anything like that. What was really cool about this episode is we got two rose ceremonies in one episode. Piper's exit. See, I really like Piper because she had fabulous hair. She took MJ's place in the hair department, but now she's gone too, and she was cold. Here's my thoughts about Chris Harrison. He did that interview recently. In one of his comments, he suggested that he understood there's a different lens between 2018 and now. So that tells me that he sort of knew what he was doing. So maybe he wanted an exit from The Bachelor. The Bachelor franchise will miss you. I was actually one of your biggest fans. Truthfully, I don't even remember if it's Chris Harris or Chris Harrison. But either way, like, I know you, that I don't need a name. But I guess you're wondering how I know all of this. It's because my girlfriend makes me watch The Bachelor.